for the shows, which are pretty interesting.
So you start that way, but then I can't ask you about it because you can't tell anybody about it.
I can't.
That's so hard. Like I'm working on this thing, but I can't tell anybody about it.
I know.
I sit here and I go,
but it does because I know you're like, what the hell's going on with Joe? Because ever since we started talking just before we hit record, I've been like, and it's because I'm spending a lot of time working on this thing that I want to tell you about, but I can't. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Vincent and Joe Hang Out and talk about stuff we can't tell anybody about. He's Vincent. I'm Joe. And we're just going to have a Friday hangout. I went to grab water really quickly and you'll like this. Remember the old days when we used to sit in stadiums together and watch sports? Remember those days?
I forget all about that. It's weird. Like I'm actually watching like comedians on television, like on YouTube and Robin Williams from like the 1980s. And I'm literally saying, you can't do that. Cause he's like taking glasses off of people's faces and put them on.
Right.
Like, you can't touch people. I'm like, I would never have said that a month ago. And now I'm like judging everything that's going on you can't do that stuff. I'm like, where did that come from?
OG was talking about that in our Facebook group just yesterday, the day before. He's like, he's watching these old ESPN sports on TV and watching all these people sit next to each other and high-fiving each other and big plays, people tackling each other. Like, he's like, what the hell are you doing?
What world was that we used to live in? Like last month.
Crazy. Hey, Kevin. Hey, Susan. Glad you guys are with us. Hey, this is this is kind of Ask Me Anything stuff. Oh, somebody kicked John out. Go Badgers. What's that about? No, but what's funny is he has Ghost spelled like he's not a Badger fan. He has it spelled like he's an LSU fan. Doesn't he? Have you? So you've been. So if people don't know anything about Vincent, he's been all over the world with his camera at many sporting events. But have you ever done a game at the Swamp?
I've not. No, because college football is the one thing that I was getting ready to really start going more into, and because it was always pro sports, pro football, even college basketball, but pros, hockey, baseball, and stuff, but not as much college football. Which I would love to do because the stadiums are just amazing. The atmosphere. These
iconic places, Death Valley, the Swamp, heck, when you look at what's that? The Badgers before the fourth quarter do that jump around thing. Oh, I see. John defines it for us. You see this?
Oh,
he's from Louisiana. His wife's from Wisconsin. That's about who wins on game day. But although those two teams don't play each other very much, they don't do much. Hey, Thomas, Ivan, my two deities, bonus dias to you as well. Morning, Jason. Where the heck are you? Jason must be in the West Coast. Well, yeah, probably. Yeah, I forget. East Coast. Where are you at now, Vincent? Because was it last year that you were at my house?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. 2 years ago, you were at my house.
Yep.
You're from Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Well, we live in Pittsburgh. It's crazy life from New York, but we've been in Pittsburgh the last 10 years. But we leave every winter, and so you were the first one that we saw in our first multi-month road trip, and that was awesome in Texarkana. But we just got back to Pittsburgh last week. We were gone since right after Christmas, and so it snowed today, and we didn't see snow all winter. But we woke up and we looked at each other like, there's snow now. Like we were supposed to leave all the snow. We came back and got it. So
isn't that crazy? Good morning to Kathy as well in California. Jason's in Seattle where my son is hunkered down working for Microsoft. We were supposed to go to Seattle to visit him. Nick was in town actually when you came through Texas, wasn't he?
Nick showed the kids around the lake.
That's right.
We went out to dinner at the one place that was just crazy packed and we couldn't go there. Cheryl, remember the Mexican place we were going to go to?
Yeah, Zapatas.
So good. Well, we didn't get to go there. I knew, and then we went to, I think we got burgers, right?
It was like burgers at a bar. Yeah, we took your kids to a bar.
We did, and they were playing the games in the back. Like, I don't know if they were making money off of something. I don't know what was going on, but they were having a good time.
I know, right? I didn't have PT time on the invite. Philip Taylor, personal time. What's he talking about? I'm missing that joke. That's all right. Hey, I want to ask you something. So, for people that don't know Vincent's brand, tell everybody about you, because you were a guy that growing up. And by the way, people can go back and if you just put in your search back in Stacking Benjamin's archives, you can listen to Vincent and I talking about your whole backstory. But just very briefly, you're a guy who was a financial train wreck.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And then you're going through like what, Southern Illinois, driving around and you hear this guy with a twang on the radio.
Hillbilly. He was a hillbilly. I was working at a newspaper in Evansville, Indiana. My wife and I are both photographers and I was always okay with my money in my 20s, but never had very much. So you couldn't get very much trouble when you don't have much. So eventually we got these jobs at this newspaper and we became normal. We did what everybody else did. We got a mortgage, we got car payments, we started borrowing for everything. And that was kind of against where I used to be. And at the time we were going to have our first kid, I was driving through Southern Illinois on assignment and I hear this twangy guy talking about money. And I'm like, money show? I listen to sports and music but it was good. And I started listening the next day. I was waiting for it. It was Dave Ramsey, but it was Dave Ramsey before it was Dave Ramsey. It was like 2000.
Ramsey.
Yeah, it was like 2003. Yeah. Nobody knew who he was. I would go back to the office like, do you know who this guy is? Nobody knew. And so I'm looking him up and he's on some local station that was just, you could barely even understand it. And that's kind of my first step into the financial freedom world.
You met Dave now, haven't you?
Yeah, a few times. Yeah. He actually hired us to do photography. That was kind of a turning point. I don't even think you know this. When we were going from photography to what we do now, which is, entrepreneurship coaching, we run a community around it. When they hired us, him and Rachel, when they came to Pittsburgh for one of their events to do the photography. And when we were there, I was supposed to photograph the Pittsburgh Pirates. They were playing in a playoff game a week later, and Chris Medford was his director of live events. So we're backstage and talking, and Dave's not there yet. And Chris is like, so what's going on? And he's like, we've been so busy. We're working on this event with Seth Godin and Gary Vaynerchuk. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I want to go to that. And I said, but I can't because I'm photographing this game. But he didn't hear me the whole way. So he looked at me. He goes, do you want to go? And I said, yeah, I'd love to go. And he goes, message my assistant. I'll get you a ticket to New York City the next week. It's like a $900 ticket. So I have a decision to make. Do I turn down shooting this game, which is my career? It's been my career, but I knew I was writing this book. I wanted to go in this different direction. So I had this crossroads. Where do I go? And I talked to Elizabeth and she's like, you got to go to New York. So I canceled the game. I took a mega bus to New York City. That's where I first met Seth Godin, Gary Vaynerchuk, met Dave again. And from that point on, everything in this world started rolling. So that was literally a turning point in our life.
That's amazing. Taking the megabus was the turning point.
The megabus. It was comfortable too. There was nobody on it. It was great.
Really? My son used to take the megabus to University of Texas, and we'd drop him off in Dallas. So we'd drive halfway there so you could catch the megabus. But it was always packed. Megabus was always packed, but he loved it. He said it was very comfortable. It was fine. That supposedly they had Wi-Fi and all the buses worked about half the time.
There are times we homeschool. So there are times I just want to get on a megabus, right? For 5 hours. Just take me to Philadelphia, give me the Wi-Fi and the plug, and let me do some work. And then I'll get on the mega. I'll come back home and I'll get more work done on that trip than I do my entire time at home. So yeah, it was good. The trip back was terrible, Joe. The trip back, I left the event. I met my brother for dinner because he's in New York. He works on Broadway as a lighting tech. Met him for dinner, got on an 11 o'clock bus to get back home, and that was packed. So the overnight bus was jammed and uncomfortable. The during the day bus was awesome. So it wasn't the best combo.
What did you learn in New York?
What do you mean? Give me a more.
Just whenever I see you at conferences, my first thing always is, and our mutual friend Roger Whitney says this about me. He's like, I'm the one guy that always comes up to you and I'm like, so what are you learning? Like, what's the big takeaway? So what was your big takeaway in New York? Do you remember? Was
for that trip? I mean, I'm from. You mean in Jersey? Yeah. I'm from there. Like, you mean that trip?
No, for that trip, yeah, because you're here with
Yeah,
rubbing elbows with Gary V. We're rubbing elbows. Is that a thing we could say anymore? Can we say rubbing elbows anymore? I don't think so.
is that like, can you contract anything by rubbing elbows?
Back in the day when we used to say rubbing elbows.
We're gonna have to ask people, is that allowed? Is like rubbing elbows allowed? It's gonna be something else. Be like waving.
Yeah.
It was, what did I learn? And now that's a great question. Wow. I learned so well, okay, I'll tell you what I learned. Seth Godin said something when he was on stage, and it really has helped me in terms of building what we build out. And he said, you're going to learn more from the people next to you sitting down here at this event than you will learn from us on stage. And we always go in there and we think, oh, we want to sit and listen to all the speakers. But it was all the connections that I made there. Ken Carfagno is one of my best friends now. I met him in the hallway there just by interrupting a conversation. He called me the interrupter because I heard these guys talking. I liked the conversation.
You?
Yeah, can you believe that? No, right? I walked right in, and now he's like one of my best friends. It's like we met so many people that day. And you know this. We go to these events, the speakers are good, but when we can talk in the hallway and we can introduce each other to, that's how everything grows. So that was the first time that I really realized it's not about just listening to the speakers. It's about talking to the people that came to an event that all get the way that you think and that type of mindset to learn from them. So that was a big takeaway for me.
My thing at a conference, whether it's virtual, because, I mean, a lot of people doing virtual conference stuff lately. My big thing is to figure out which presentations are the must-sees, and then as much interaction as possible. Because I kind of see people go both ways. Some people never go to any speakers, and they miss everything. And then other people miss out the stuff in the hallway and they never network. But I kind of feel like it's an extrovert introvert thing, right? If you're an introvert, you like sitting in the middle of the room and listening to the speakers. If you're extrovert, forget the speakers. I'm going to go out in the hall and make stuff happen. But there's got to be a middle ground.
What I've learned this week is I didn't know this. I think I'm an introvert. I always thought I was an extrovert. I am having no problem being home. I'm having this whole thing is not bothering me that much in terms of social isolation. But when I go to those events, I know the value. I mean, even in terms of what we do, like going on podcasts, making connections, it all comes from being in the hallway and you, me, and Roger are talking, and somebody else walks up and we all introduce each other. And then within 3 minutes, they go, hey, I want to have you on my show. That's the way it works. It doesn't work by me listening to a lecture. I feel like I can get that online somewhere, but I can't meet these people online the same way.
Yeah, it's funny. Jason says, don't let, and by the way, when Jason said PT, he meant Pacific time.
Oh, not Philip Taylor.
He meant center of the world time. Yeah. It is funny when you and I hear PT, we think the creator of FinCon,
totally.
Taylor, but yes. And then he also says, don't like WeWork or Regis here
about which part?
About it. I think it's about his rubbing elbows appropriate and staying at home, or, us doing this stuff, but man, I bet WeWork's going to be changing. I mean, everything's going to change. I was reading something on the Points Guy website just this morning about how the nature of, speculating about how the nature of travel is going to change, right? Road trips by ourselves with just our family is going to be more in vogue, at least over the short run, because the virus will still be out there even after this wave ends. And then number two is outdoor activities. Going to be huge, right? National parks. I don't know about you and the boys, Vincent, but and Elizabeth, but holy cow, we've been to our metro parks around here, like, I don't know, 6 times in the last week. Like we're constantly out at the parks.
But the funny thing is, our family is kind of like, welcome to our world. This is what we've been doing for the last 6 years. It's road trips with the family. It's going to different national parks. It's actually going to crimp our style a little bit because we like to leave when everybody else is in school at work. Like, so we hunker down in the summertime. Like, you guys all do your trips, go to Disney and pack the place. Soon as September comes, like, we're going to national parks, and there's never anybody in the road. The price is always better. And now I'm like, oh crap. Like, everybody's going to be doing it the same way. Like, our secret's out.
Yeah. So, but there will still be, I heard this a long time ago, back when my kids were your kids' age, way back when. This is an old Uncle Joe story. So, but it still applies today, Vincent, which is a guy told me at Yellowstone when we were there, we were at the parking lot for Old Faithful. and there were just crap loads of people in the parking lot, right? And the inn is right there, and it's packed with people, and the whole place. And this guy told us something that I met in the gift shop. He talked about the 100-yard rule, and he said if you take any of these trails out here, and you go 100 yards away from that parking lot, most of the time you're by yourself, which is amazing that these national parks can be so full of people and nobody ever gets out of their damn car. Or if they do, they walk the 40 yards to take a picture, to stand 5 deep to take a picture of Old Faithful.
That's it.
So yeah, so this guy told us about this like, I don't know, 30-minute hike up to this ridge across the road. And so we hike this hike, we go up to the ridge. It was just Cheryl and I and the kids, and we're way up high. We're looking down at Old Faithful by ourselves. Best view. I mean, we got the best view, and it's just us. So even in the national parks, I think, even though they might be packed, you get out of one of those trails, I think the 100-yard rule will still apply.
I love that. We are stealing the 100-yard rule. I love that.
Absolutely. Well, you're a guy that already steals the 100-yard rule.
That's true.
That's already your thing. So I want to talk a little bit about your podcast for a second while we have you here. By the way, and Jason says, by the way, he was talking about working on the bus when he said, don't let WeWork hear that. Megabus competing against WeWork.
Right? That's going to be the new thing, rolling WeWorks, right?
That's right.
So you don't have to sit still. You can see the country while you get your stuff done, then come back home at night.
Maybe until high-speed rail finally one day gets here. That Amtrak just has that slogan. Hey, we get you there slower so that you get away.
You can actually get some work done.
So you can get away from the kids.
Your kids don't drive you crazy.
We'll get you. Hey, we'll take 8 hours to get
That's
your
right.
4-hour drive done. Yeah. But let's talk about the podcast, because you are a guy that I know as somebody who is always optimistic. I can't think of a time I've talked to you where you're not like glasses 3/4 away full. Like, actually for you, I think 3/4 full is even a little less full than usual. It's usually 7/8 of the way full.
You get me on good days. Ask my wife. It's not always that way.
But this is a time when we need optimism.
Totally.
Right? We totally need it. You turn on the news, all you have is negative, and rightfully so, by the way. There's a lot of bad stuff happening right now. How do you stay optimistic? How do you tell our audience to stay optimistic in a time like now?
I'm excited. I really am. As long as I don't contract something that's just like, or my family, like I think there's so much opportunity right now. And I know that sounds cliche, but in our world, I'll give you an example. Like, there's so many people reinventing themselves. There's so many opportunities that people have been stuck, and they tell, well, I can't really do anything because I'm too busy. Everybody's been too busy for the last couple of years. Now you're not too busy. And, for us, we've homeschooled for 6 years, and we've always been the weird ones. Everybody's like, I can never do that. And I'm like, well, you're going to give it a shot now, because everybody's homeschooling now, right? And then everybody kind of goes a little bit bonkers about it. Then they go, wait a second, I'm learning things from this, and we're getting all these questions. So we are literally developing a community and a platform and lessons around this that we're going to be rolling out in the next couple of months, because this is something that we've done forever. So I think there's so many opportunities now that are going to be opened up because other things are going to fall through. And if the other thing is, like, we're not anymore, but in the photography world, there's a lot of people getting hurt, right? Because all their live events, speakers, their events are getting canceled. And I heard somebody in a community, and I commented, I don't usually jump in too much, but they were like, do I lower my prices or do I keep them the same? And I said, well, how about option 3, which would be raising your prices, because there's so many photographers, and on the high, and this is across the board, high end, high prices, and they're struggling as well. And you think you're the only one that's struggling. They're struggling. A lot of them are going to say, you know what? I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go somewhere else. And there's a lot of people, just giving the photography world, use as an example, there are still people making $300,000 a year that have one daughter that's going to get married in 2021 or 2022, and they're still going to spend a good amount of money on their wedding. And you have an opportunity to position yourself higher when all this stuff settles out. In 2008, because we have an experience, when the economy crashed 2008, we were middle of the rung. We were a couple of years into our business. When it came out, we were like the top priced photographers in our town, because we did exactly that. We got our money together. This is like what you teach, right? Being financially smart, when you do that stuff, when you come out of it, you are so much more positioned to jump rank. And I think there's a lot of chance there for a lot of people.
No, it's great. When I think about back my financial planner days, and I don't remember exactly the statistics, so excuse me because I'll probably get this wrong, but I think that the 2007 2008 financial crisis wiped out a third of the people that called themselves financial advisors, like wiped out a third of them,
Yep.
and I think that number might even be light. And if this were the podcast right now, I'd pause it and we'd look for the exact number. But it was a huge number, though. Either way, to your point, it was a huge number. A lot of people, that either didn't have the resiliency, didn't have the resources to stay the course, whatever it might be. It brings up opportunities for you to do something better, to compete better.
Without a doubt. I mean, you think about realtors. How many realtors just like everybody, when the economy is going great, everybody can do it. And it makes people, it's almost like an arrogance. Like, oh, I can't do any wrong. Like, I don't need to try that. And now you see a lot of people scrambling.
Right.
And, I don't know if it's the arrogance of employment, how many people I've talked to, like, my job's recession proof. Now it's not.
Right.
And now it's like all the things that I'd kind of poked them to do a year ago. Now they're like, well, how do I do that? I'm like, the thing is, you shouldn't have waited to now to do it.
Yes.
That's the number one thing. Like, there's nothing you could do about it now, but think about, we always prepare. What if this is all going to go away next year? We're always financially in business, not stressed about it, not worried, but getting our stuff in order. But what it does is every time things keep going better, we have more opportunities to invest. And if things do go down, then you're like, okay, well, we're prepared for it. Now what do we do? And I think we're positioned in a really good spot to just add new options. I'm excited.
I like this. I like that approach because I had a client one time who was an engineer, a civil engineer building highways, and said to me that before they build the highway, the first thing that they would always do is look at all the things that could go wrong before they build.
Yeah.
And only once they've looked at all of those things, then do they start building the highway. And I think that that's an important step before you build. Too many people, you look at how many restaurants fail every year. And I have friends that are in banking that try to, they see these business plans and they take these loans and they could see it from the beginning. Like, are you kidding? This is a business plan that's written on a napkin. Yep. It really goes into nothing. And don't get me wrong, you don't really need one of these 5,000 page business plans.
I agree.
But you do need to know, if everything goes wrong, how are we going to handle it? What are we going to do to make this stand out? How is it going to be different? I think it's I agree. This is a great time to prepare. Speaking of PT earlier, we were talking about Philip Taylor. When I was speaking with him last week for our interview that appears today on Stacking Benjamins, I asked him what he was doing. And he said, I am sharpening the saw right now, to quote Stephen Covey. I'm sharpening the saw so we'll come out of this stronger than we were, beforehand.
Totally. I did a podcast maybe a week or two, and it was called This Is History. And it was right when it was getting very, what is really going on? Like right now we're kind of adjusting. It's wild, but everybody's breathing better. But it was basically, which side of history are you going to come out on? Because this is going to be talked about for a long time, right? This is replacing 2008. This is replacing 9/11. This is going to be the thing that's talked about. There's going to be keynote speeches written on this, not in terms of the history, but in terms of their history on it.
Yeah.
There's going to be millionaires and billionaires, not only just money-wise, but just in terms of life success that come out of this period. And there's going to be a lot of people that get crushed and they give up. So it's like, which side are you going to come out on? And I really think about that every day.
Yeah. Susan has a great note. I don't know if you saw this, Vincent, but our friend Susan says, a business mentor said to ask yourself, what does this make possible? I mean, that's a great question. And her next point, what can you do to be perfectly positioned when this ends? Exactly what you're thinking.
For me, like I talk, and you know this, and we haven't even said this verbally, but building a network around you is so underrated and so undervalued and so done incorrectly, where people are always like, oh, how can I meet that person so I can get this thing? Right?
Yeah.
That's how they see networking. To me, building a network is bringing people around you that you can connect together and you can make them stronger. And then in turn, you will get stronger, but you make your entire network better by doing that. And this is the time to do it, because if you're stuck at home or you can't do a whole lot of work, connection's the key. Relationships are the key. 87% of jobs we had seen, like they're done by referral. When I need a plumber or whatever it is, I'm asking a friend that I trust. This is the time and I'm amazed at how many people aren't doing this, that aren't really connecting and trying to help other people out and bringing them up, just seeing how they're doing, just checking in. This is the only time I can remember in my life that I could send a personal message to anybody, and on a personal level, like, how are you handling this? And we're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't remember another time.
There's nobody saying handling what?
Yeah, what do you mean? We all know. It's a very easy time to just reestablish relationships for no reason than just to get back in touch and help people and not just ask for something. I think this is the time to do that.
It's funny because networking for me is so much easier when it's face to face, even online. I mean, hanging out with you guys. I've met Susan face to face.
I lost your audio
here before. What's that? You lost me? You don't got me?
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Oh boy. Can
you guys hear him?
Can everybody else hear me? We're going to wait here a second. You might want to drop and come back. You might want to drop off and come back. You might want to drop off and come back. Let's see. I'm going to go to host chat. Hold on a second, guys. There we go. Yeah, I can hear him too. So Be Live has had some issues. Oh my goodness. Look at my, so it is rare that I can say that I need a haircut, but holy cow, do I need, look at this thing. What the heck is that? Anyway, so many people on the internet, and this thing that we use called Be Live has been fantastic for us, but they're a small company, and to take on new market share, I just learned yesterday, they're kind of doing the thing that Vincent's talking about right now, which is they're letting more people use it for free. And so because of that, they've, I've had bars across the top of my screen that say that we might have issues. Do we got you back?
I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Hear you.
Good deal. So where did we leave off?
We're talking network. You were talking about the way you saw networking, at least the last thing I heard.
Yeah.
Live events.
Yeah. So I remember what I was saying. I mean, a few of these people I've met Colin before here that's hanging out with us. Ivan, I've met Susan, I've met. So there's people that I've gotten to network with, and that always, you know, for me, that kind of strengthens that network, right? The fact that we met them face to face before makes it stronger. How do we replace that today? Like, what do you keep in mind? Because for me, thinking about networking right now, until you just said it, probably the last thing on my mind.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's the number one thing for me. It's the number one thing I'm a connector. I love the relationships. I love the conversations. So it's not hard. I know it's hard for a lot of people because they're like, well, how do I reach out to people? What do I even say? Blah, blah, blah. You know, it's easy now. We're talking about a Floby.
I was talking about how I had the whole screen to myself while you were gone, just to catch you up on while you were gone. And I'm looking at my hair, and there's few days when I need a haircut, but I'm looking at this stuff right here. And then, you know, I got these turned into like Martin Van Buren after a little while. But anyway, I was going, man, do I need a haircut? And so Jason says, I need.
Are you going to cut your own? Are you going to cut your own hair?
I have no idea what's going to happen. Hopefully this coronavirus thing will be done tomorrow and I can go get my haircut. That is the one thing I like. I really like going out and get my haircut. I find it relaxing. The place I get my haircut's hilarious. The barbers are hilarious, and we just sit and laugh for 45 minutes. So, and it takes like 10 to cut my hair. So there you go.
Is that the first thing you do? And how long is the line going to be when you go?
I didn't even think about that. The line at a barber is going to be super long. And by the way, how thick are those gloves going to be that LB, my barber, has? Like, just she's going to have these monster gloves. Like,
I told Elizabeth she should do a photo story on the first day after everything like opens up, like at beauty salons. Because you're going to have these lines that like they're trying to buy tickets for a concert, and their hair is going to be ridiculous because nobody's gotten their hair cut or color. It's going to be a really interesting thing that we've never seen before. So
the lines at restaurants. Remember when we used to go to a restaurant? Oh, those were the days.
Wait, what's that? What's you're talking about? A restaurant? What is that?
That was crazy. But all right. But so networking, you were saying networking, your number one thing that you think about, just reaching out.
Yeah, reaching out, just seeing. I mean, even now, it's a perfect time because it depends on where you're at in your business. But podcast guesting, like you have guests on your podcast. It depends on what you're doing. It's a big part of our business, right? Having people like this is the time. This is the time to reach out and make connections on that and help people out in that way. Connect other people together. It's a big part of it.
I'm only laughing about that because of the fact that, just to pull the curtain back a little bit, I think I have a reputation of being a little bit hard to deal with when it comes to like guest booking services and stuff.
Yeah.
And Vincent, when he was reaching out, trying to be helpful, said, "Hey, can I help you maybe find some guests?" Like he was trying to be helpful. What was my answer?
You were like my brother. You were like so mean to me.
I was like, "Oh, hell no."
Like you're like, I don't want this. I don't want that. I don't want your grandmother on here. I don't want any of this stuff. I was like,
do not help me get guests.
No. Joe's like, leave me alone. So I didn't respond back to him. I'm like, I don't know what to say. I don't know. I'll leave her alone.
It was funny because I wasn't even thinking. It's, I'm doing 50 things that I wrote back. I just wrote back, "Oh, hell no, please. No, I don't want experts. Please, not a real estate."
You're like, I don't want money experts. I don't want real. I'm like, all right. I love it. I like the way you're angled on them. No, I know what I want. I know what I don't want. That's good, as opposed to just anybody.
Yeah, but still, I look back because when you wrote me the next line, which was, "So who do you want?" And I felt like it was all in these little tiny letters. Like, okay, Joe.
I was expecting a contract with like 45 pages, like addendum here. This is what we don't want. Here's what we want. I'm like, all right.
Yeah,
find you somebody.
Yeah. I don't know about you, about how much, because how old's the show now? A year old?
No, it's a daily show. It's a daily podcast.
Yeah.
And I think episode 280 something. So maybe, what would that be? Started in July.
Close.
I'm not good at math, so I don't know how many months that is.
Yeah, but you're getting close. So July will be a year. Yeah. But you'll find as you go, you just get pitched more and more and more often. And
I have the perfect solution, Joe. I do a daily solo show.
Yes, you do.
So I love it when people go, "I would love to be a guest on your show." I'm like, "Have you listened?" I'm like, "I love it." I'm like, "Do you know I don't have any guests on my show?" Oh, yeah, because there's all these agencies that are pitching podcast guests. So it's the type of thing where that's why it's beautiful for me. I get to just do my thing at my own time, record it. It's one of my favorite things to do now is this podcast.
But that is for me a great part of, for me, networking, because I'm not a natural, like, light level networker. I remember talking to, and a lot of people on this call will know this guy, Chris Ducker.
Oh yeah.
Having a great discussion with Chris Ducker about the difference between him and another guy in our the online community, Pat Flynn.
Yep.
And Chris Ducker said something that's way more like me. He would rather sit here for an hour with you and I, just the two of us, and have this conversation that goes a mile deep and this wide.
Mm-hmm.
Where Pat Flynn, phenomenal, and both these guys are considered great networkers, right? Yeah. Pat Flynn would rather have, this is according to Chris, I don't know Pat that well, would rather have 100 conversations that are very wide, doesn't need to be that deep. Yeah. That's why for me, having guests on the show allows me to kind of ask some of those questions I would never ask somebody over dinner. So you have multiple sclerosis. Tell me about that. Like, wait, there's no way in hell you'd ask some of these questions. All the stuff that's on your mind. John asked this. This is an interesting question into your psyche, which, by the way, John, we've been trying to get into Vincent's psyche since I've known him. So this is, he doesn't even know. Introvert tendencies, yet loves networking. Very interesting.
I don't love networking, John. I don't love that. I don't like the term networking, right? I think networking is going to some meeting where you're handing out business cards and you have to do something for somebody else because it's part of a quota. That's not what I like. I love connection. I love conversation. I am not a small talk person. I am not like, "Oh, how you doing? I'm good. How are you?" I just put me in the room and close the door. I'm good. But I love, just like you talk, deep conversations right away. I think I annoy people with it sometimes because I want to know what's going on, right? What are you dealing with? What's going on? I'm like, whoa, we just, started talking. But that's what I love, is just real solutions or real interesting conversations. So that's, to me, I like John, I'm talking about building a network around me, people around me that I'm connected to that I can help other people out with, as opposed to, you know, I don't know if anybody gets that, but I don't really, the term networking kind of bugs me a little bit.
Yeah. The Jody says, I listen to Vincent's podcast with my morning coffee.
Hey, Jody.
How about that? That's awesome. And Jody's a voice actor as well. I see here on Jody, by the way, I need a voice actor now. I need to hire like 3 in the next 24 hours. So shoot me an email, joe@stackingbenjamins.com.
I wish we could bring Jody on so you could hear her voice. You heard Jody's voice, you'd be like, she's the person for my voice. It's
perfect. We are, and just to tell people a few things about, if you weren't here hanging out with us on Wednesday, not just for us, for everybody, advertising has gone away on a lot of podcasts. There's a lot less, and we've got advertisers that are just hitting the pause button and they're telling us, they're saying, hey, Joe, it's nothing to do with you. It's that we can't do anything right now. We're not selling anything right now. Now, other industries are actually selling more. There's people are thinking about things that they haven't thought about in the past. And, you know, I can't really go into those more than that, but to say that our advertising schedule has been, when I look forward at April, much more empty than it's been in the past. However, because advertising is the one thing that keeps us podcasting, I can't just get rid of those spots, because I've been listening to podcasts for a long time. And if I get rid of the ad spot completely and then they come back, I know what I think. I'm not happy with that. And I understand that it's friction. So I get that. So what we've been doing, Vincent, we usually, when we don't have an advertiser, we have fake ads, but I can't play the same 8 fake ads that we've already made. So right now we are cranking out all these fake advertisements that in my brain are freaking hilarious. Your results may vary, but today, not a fake ad, Doug 2020, my mom's neighbor, Doug, running for president, and he has his presidential campaign stuff.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes, on today's show, talking about in his advertisement, he talks about how he's going to nationalize Zoom so that we can have these conversations all the time. He likes capitalism as much as the next guy. Also, all this quarantining makes him jittery, so he's going to demand that all Dairy Queens open back up, so you can get the chat.
How do we vote for Doug? I mean, is we're talking? He's looking for president, or he's looking for local? You said president.
Just for Doug 2020. Get the t-shirt. stackingbenjamins.com/shirts. You got to wear a Doug 2020 shirt. You've got to.
He's going to keep the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup Blizzard going, though, right? Like that's never going away.
Key is to get it open sooner. We have to figure out the bottom of this national crisis, Vincent. I don't know if you know it, is to get Dairy Queens back open again. It's social distancing. Maybe we have to call ahead or something, but have some strategy.
I have good news for you. When we drove home from South Carolina to Pittsburgh, not only was Dairy Queen open somewhere in West Virginia, but it was a drive-through. We'd never seen a drive-through Dairy Queen before.
Perfect.
How does it get any better than a drive-through Dairy Queen?
It doesn't.
And it was open, and there was nobody around. I'm like, I just want to move to the middle of nowhere, West Virginia, because we could just go through the Dairy Queen, even during a quarantine. So tell Doug, to head there.
Jody says something interesting from a business point. She says, this is an opportunity to get more authentic with your advertising. I think our advertising already, Jody, is pretty authentic, but we've made a commitment to, we don't do much affiliate stuff. Our advertising is all CPM, and that's a whole different thing. I like using it as a time to expand our creativity. Actually, we're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. Okay. But if we can make the show funnier, more creative, we're going to do that. But
what plans do you have going? Because this could be extended, right? What plans do you guys have in terms of the funny ads that you're going to do? I mean, is it just a roll with the punches type of thing?
Absolutely. No, we want it to be all over the case. So some of the commercials that we're creating now, we have a new coffee that is for day traders that's coming. So these people that day trade everything, and the coffee is called I Got Lucky Again.
Okay.
We have one that is what's the other one? Oh, there's another one that's a new course that we're going to offer. Okay. Or it's a new channel. It's a video channel called Watch the Dow Shrink My Money. So it's about how I used to have a lot and I watch it magically shrink every day. So if your kids are bored at home, you sit them in front of the TV and just watch your money shrink.
Watch your money go away.
It's really exciting. It's super exciting. So
live updates with the commercials.
That's right.
I just lost another 15 grand.
But the good news is at the end of the commercial, we talk about how it's all going to come back. Then it comes back, which is
That's cool. Not going to be as much fun though. Now we're making right. It's the losing.
It's like a roller coaster. I mean, the downhill is always more fun than the uphill.
Totally.
Sure, we're all having more fun watching it shrink than we will watching it come back by far.
Or at least it gets your attention a lot more.
Mitchell, my friend Mitchell is here with us. So Mitchell and I went to the horse races in Hot Springs. Mitchell grabbed me and some
Hot Springs. Where? Hot Springs.
Hot Springs Arc. Which other Hot Springs is there? Who are you?
We missed out. We drove through there. I knew you, but we did not know about it until we passed through, and I was so mad at ourselves.
That would have been fabulous. Mitchell, I'm coming through. Mitchell lives in the town next to Texarkana. He lives in Mount Pleasant. So I'm going to be coming through, Mitchell. We got to go have lunch, maybe go to Reggie's, get a burger.
So is Mitchell in Texas or in Arkansas?
He's in Texas. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a picture on our wall downstairs of Nolan jumping in front of the courthouse from
both states.
Which way would it be? Whether it was from Arkansas to Texas or Texas to Arkansas, but he's literally like right in the middle. It's perfect time.
Yeah. I love that right there on the line. Fun play.
I bet you can. There's a story just about that thing, right? Like the amount of crazy things that have happened between those two states at that spot. I would imagine there's been some wild stories that would happen.
There's a picture that Main Street Texarkana has put on T-shirts, and Main Street Texarkana is a way to get both the cities working together because they have to be two separate cities because they're in separate states. But so it's a little bit dysfunctional, but there's no way to do it better. So Main Street's job is to get the two of them together. But they have a T-shirt you can buy that is an old time T-shirt standing right where you were with the beautiful courthouse behind you, and it's a guy and a donkey. And depending on which side you're for, it says picture of a man with his ass in Arkansas or a man with his ass in Texas. And they have it both ways. So you can buy either one,
Brilliant.
So
just tell me. So the people, when we were driving away and going back towards the highway, one side had a lot of the liquor stores and one side had nothing. Which state was which?
Arkansas. Arkansas had all the liquor stores.
Okay. So
yeah.
Okay.
Texas have been dry. So yeah, you go down state line.
It's so funny.
Or liquor store. Nothing
on the same road.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure people. Welcome to the Texarkana History Hour.
Right, sorry to go in that.
This is Vincent. Hey, I did want to ask you about one more thing, and it's around homeschooling. I definitely don't want to talk about homeschooling because that is a much longer conversation than the 10 minutes that we have left, 10, 15 minutes. But I do want to ask about this, which is this idea. And Bobby Rebell, my co-host on Money with Friends, and I were talking about this earlier. The idea of creating your own curriculum in life, right? I think is so important. And I see what you're teaching your kids that you and Elizabeth, you guys are all about coming up with a curriculum. But how do you think about that? Where does that idea, whether it's teaching yourself things or teaching the kids things, you guys sit down and say, what life thing do we need to know next? I think it's probably a little deeper than that.
It's a lot. It is and it isn't. It's very, very streamlined. And we look at it this way. We don't want to raise great test takers. We want to raise great adults. That's the premise of everything we do with homeschooling. So when you go that way, most of the stuff that they're learning, and this is not a shot at public school system. This is just how we feel, is a lot of it to us was useless, and it's not preparing them to be adults. So how do you raise great adults? That's the whole thing. So what do we need to learn? We need to learn about money. We need to learn about business, about manners. It's about how do you talk to people? How about communication? All these different things. So everything's weaved in, but it's weaved in through their interests. And this is the weird thing. Anybody that's thrown into homeschooling right now, if this helps them, people, they're overwhelmed. It's like, what do I teach my kids? I'm not a teacher, right? That's what everybody says. We're not teachers either. We look at ourselves like the guides. What do our kids love learning? and we allow them to pursue those things. Good.
Yeah, no, and I'm not even worried. Well, and I think the people that say that I'm not a teacher are wrong, because I'm not a teacher. I'm a lifelong learner. And there was a point in my life where I realized that I had to take charge of my curriculum. There was nobody else that was going to take charge of it for me. And this wasn't at your kid's age. This is at, 30, right? At 30 years old, I thought, man, I got to design my own life curriculum to get where I want to go. I can't wait for somebody else. I can't wait for a manager. I can't wait for more class. Well, I can wait for more classes, but I can strategically pick the classes I want to take. I can get the education from the right people, right? You identify the right issue, the teacher emerges, whatever that.
Well, everything you just described is what we want for our kids now. Because we see so many adults that are 35, they went through everything, they got all the degrees, they got the jobs, they got married, they have kids, and they're miserable because they don't even like what they are doing. And it's because they followed what other people told them what to do. And choosing your own curriculum, I think we don't give kids enough credit. They're very curious. They're very interested in learning things, but we sap the curiosity out of them by telling them what to do. I didn't read because I hated what they told me to read. For instance, when I was in elementary school, they told my parents, he doesn't like reading anything that we have. All he wants to read about is sports. That's what they told my parents. Instead of saying, do you know that there are journalists that actually write stories that get published in the newspaper? They go to the games and they get paid to do that. You could do that. I would have been all into school if they told me I can make a career around sports, but they never did.
Or even think about all those Mike Lubica novels, that you could be devouring.
Yeah. I mean, what do you love learning? And even if they're bored, let them be bored. Because instead of giving them an iPad, let them have to, sit on the floor for an hour doing nothing and then go start drawing. You're going to figure out what they really like doing. And once they love learning, you can teach them math. You can teach them science through the things that they're learning. Our son's in World War II. He's learning about math, science, business. He's building tanks. He wants to sell them, different types of civil rights, all these things that come into it. We don't have to sit him down with a civil rights book. It's baked into the lessons of the things that he wants to learn. So that's really exciting to us because we're not fighting them about learning. We just push them in the direction that they want to go and then let them go from there.
With your own curriculum, what are you working on for you, not for your kids, but for you right now?
Oh, it's this homeschool thing. This is we literally for 3 hours this morning, literally what are the things that we're going to help guide people to think this way, to understand what we're talking about. We have a lot of parents that are not going to send their kids back to school. They've already told us this, but they don't know what to do. And they're stressed out because they're like, well, I'm not a teacher, blah, blah. The other thing goes we have a lot of kids with ADHD, autism, and they're struggling in the school system. There's bullying and they don't want to be a part of it. So we're going to really create something on the outside for this. That's our curriculum of the next 3 months to build that out, which is exciting to us.
It's funny because Jason says make your curriculum mean something. My nieces struggle with algebra because what the hell do I need to memorize a Pythagorean, easy for me to say, Pythagorean theorem for? How can they solve a problem, make something? You know what's funny though? I don't think, and I've seen this meme, Jason, online. I don't think the problem is the Pythagorean theorem. I think the problem is connecting the Pythagorean theorem to things that we're using in real life. I think we're going to, if we are going to teach it, and if there is a reason for it, like as an example, there's a lot of stuff that I had in my philosophy classes that first I was like, what's this all about? And then I had this phenomenal instructor that taught me that life is about philosophy. When you see messed up politicians or messed up people in your life, and it's because a lot of the time it's not psychology, it's because they have these competing philosophies that they've been taught, from different places. And all of a sudden philosophy went from this thing that I thought was just, woohoo baloney to something really important to understanding people. So I don't.
Was it interesting to you at that point because you were actually interested in the topic at that point? It was more real. What made you interested in it?
I got more interested in it when that professor told me why it was important.
Gotcha. Okay.
Once the professor told me, at first it was just mandatory stuff that I had to take, right? It was stuff that was being shoved at me. And I'm like, why do I need this? I thought it was part of my major. And then I found out from this brilliant professor about how it's the backbone of so many things. Like as an example, I had this other great teacher who taught me that the second law of thermodynamics is life, right? Entropy. Things tend to fall apart. And us sitting here today together is us trying to keep it together. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're trying to fight entropy. And it was an English professor that told me that science was important. And before that, I didn't really want much to do with science, Vincent. I wanted, I was like, no, more of a journalism / whatever, guy.
Yeah. No, it's true. But what we've seen with our kids at that point is they want to read about it more once they have an interest in it. Once it's exciting to them, like Elizabeth goes to the library and she literally will pick out 20 books, doesn't really ask them, different topics, throws them around the living room, and then they come out and you'd be amazed. They just start picking certain ones up that really attach to them, and that's how the interest spreads. And it's not us standing over them saying, you better get this done by Friday at 4:00. It's not that.
Yeah. Good stuff there. So what's coming up on the podcast, my friend? I'm looking at the time and we are quickly running out of time.
I have no idea, Joe. I go day by day, how I'm feeling. I record. I don't pay attention. I literally, Joe, when I do all the stuff myself, except for the editing of the audio. And when I log into Libsyn, I put my hand over the right-hand side of the screen because I don't want to see the download numbers. I don't want to know. I don't want to be influenced by it. I don't care. I cover it up. I record what I want to record. I get it out there, and then I keep going. My goal is just get to 1,000 episodes. Just record for 1,000 episodes and see what happens. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always exciting listening to the show, but listening to it, it sounds like there's this framework, I mean, we're so opposite that way. We're working on shows 5 weeks from now and how they intersect with the show before it. And we make it sound different enough, but still, be part of the same overall story arc. And then you're like, I don't
know. My whole thing is this. It's 5 to 7 minutes. If anybody hasn't listened, it's 5 to 7 minutes. There's no intro. There's no outro. There's no ads. There's no music. It is me for 5 to 7. And I want to have a story. And I want to have a lesson that comes out with it and a takeaway. And that's really it. So it's really a 1-point thing, something to make you just think that day and then move on. So I got a list of about 500 potential episodes. It's just a matter of what am I feeling today to record, and then we just go from there.
That is awesome. Well, Vincent, fantastic hanging out. I'm glad that you were able to do it, my friend. It's always fun. We've said this. I say this every time I see you. We don't get to hang out enough.
No.
So I'm glad we got to hang out with you and a bunch of our friends here.
This has been awesome. Thank you. And we didn't make fun of each other for a whole hour, and we cannot meet in person without making fun of each other. So everybody, you didn't see the real us.
Within 3 minutes.
We're usually just like, I actually think before you go, I remember I saw you at Podcast Movement. I said, I think I went a little bit too hard on. I think I made Joe mad this time because we didn't even say hello when I was already making a joke, and you were like, you got to at least be nice before you can make a joke about me.
That was so damn fun. Yeah, that was wild. No, that was at Podfest, wasn't it?
I don't think I haven't been to Podfest.
No, you didn't go to Podfest. Everybody.
It was the one Podcast Movement. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yes, it was. You're right. It was. Yes.
Wherever, Dallas or I don't know anymore. Orlando it was. I'm pretty
sure. Wherever we were.
Wherever.
We were at that place. Two cool people at that awesome place.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, listening to us ramble on.
Yeah. Hey, and thanks for all the comments. I want to tell you guys just how fun this is ending our week with friends. This has been great. Coming up next week on the show, by the way, talk about quirky, fun stuff. We're going to learn from a woman named Lydia Finette. Lydia is the #1 auctioneer of charity auctions for Christie's Auction House. And so we're going to be talking to her about life as an auctioneer. Talk about that, Vincent. That was a place before she got there, really an old boys club. And so she talks about how she commands a room, how she differentiates herself, how she realized she doesn't need to be an old guy with a British accent to be good at her job, which I think you think of auctioneers, you either think of people talking fast or whatever. So she's going to be our guest on Monday.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Stay safe. Bye-bye.